Yo, what is up, Z fam? Welcome to a new video. In today's video, I'm bringing you the ultimate settings video for Black Ops 7, your one-stop shop for every setting you're going to need to dominate in the game. I took a little trip to New Zealand. I got my one-of-one replica office set up there, and we played the game a day early because I'm a little sweaty sweat. So now everybody that's jumping on over in North America, you're going to be able to get your hands on these settings so you can get yourself right in the game. I've already got my assault rifles almost all gold. I've already got a 6.9 KD with a 420 score per minute. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into the settings. So we're going to start things off in the display and graphics settings. I play full screen exclusive. My monitor is a 240 hertz monitor, but obviously you can put this refresh rate on whatever your PC can handle and whatever you got, whatever gear you got. A lot of these are defaulted. My brightness, I cranked that up just a tiny bit almost in every COD I play just to see a little bit clearer. The sun isn't super bright in this game. It's not going to blind you insanely. I like cranking it up just a little bit. You can try between maybe 55 and 60. NVIDIA Reflex Low Latency on plus boost. This is a setting that I've had on since Warzone, since they introduced this setting. It used to just always be either on or off. Now you go with the on plus boost. So I have VSync off and VSync menus off. The rest of these are all just default at the bottom. Power saving and the high dynamic range, all this stuff just keep that on default. My render resolution, I keep that set to 100. Notice how in the picture right there, if you have it on way lower, obviously it's going to help with your, it's going to make the game, like as I crank this down, it's going to be like, it's going to put less stress on the PC, but your game is going to look way more framey and it's going to look like complete crap. So you definitely want to keep this on 100 or at least as close to 100 as your PC can possibly handle. Now, upscaling and sharpening, you are going to want to change this to Fidelity FX cast. This is not a question. This has been the setting that everybody uses for years now. It's been in the game for a while, since MW 2019, if I'm not mistaken. And this is the one you want to use for sure. You want to make sure you click on show more and set this all the way up to 100 strength. You want to keep this on 100. It's just going to make your game look way crispier. Way crispier. Ray tracing reflections off. AMD, all this stuff off. VRAM target scale, I set mine to 80. For the details in section, texture section, it's going to obviously be a little bit case to case depending on the PC and rig that you have. Personally, I have a pretty solid gaming PC, so I'm able to keep a lot of these things on high, but not everything I do want to keep on high, because I want the game, and you'll see what I mean by that in a second. Some of the settings I like to put lower because it makes you be able to see things more visibly. A lot of the things I have kept on high makes it doesn't really affect being able to find and pinpoint where enemies are at on the game, if you get what I'm trying to say. So for my texture resolution, I keep that on high. My texture filter, I keep that on low. Depth of field, low. Detail quality, high. Particle resolution, high. Bullet impacts off. Persistent effects on. Shader quality, high. On-demand texture streaming, minimal. And I don't touch these two numbers here when you click show more. Local texture streaming quality and in-game video quality, I set that to low. For my shadow and lighting settings, I keep shadow quality very low. Screen space shadows off. Occlusion and screen space lighting off. Screen space reflections off. And static reflection quality low. Now, in environment, there's actually some massive settings that you are going to want to make sure you copy mine, because if you don't, you actually will be putting yourself at a genuine disadvantage. And let me show you that here in a second. So for terrain quality, I have that set to medium. Volumetric quality low. Deferred physics quality off. And for the weather grid volumes quality, I want you to take a look at these two photos right here. I'm going to bring this down to the bottom, my webcam down to the bottom of the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. When you set this all the way up to ultra, or on the higher you go, notice how my character on the right-hand side has all of the snow and just more detail on the character. The game doesn't maybe look as realistic and as good on the left picture, but it is a million times easier to pick out this guy laying down in the snow versus the guy on the right. So that means that if you have this set up to ultra and you look at other players in the game, they will have these types of environmental things take place on their character, like maybe snow covering half their body, and they're going to blend in just that much better with their environment, which you do not want. You want to be able to pinpoint your enemies at any point. So I would highly advise you just turn this off completely. For water quality, I have this set to water caustics. And then we move over to the view tab. So for the multiplayer in Black Ops 7, you're probably going to want to keep your field of view between 103 and like 105. Now, I play 120, and the reason why I'm going against my own rule here is because I've played tons of Warzone over the years. Most top players like to crank their field of view all the way up because in Warzone, it's actually a little bit beneficial to have a more stretched resolution so you can see more of your surroundings, which will in turn allow you to catch more enemies, because in that game you're running in big open landscapes where you could potentially miss someone if your field of view is shrunk. Whereas on multiplayer, the reason why the pros are able to keep it more so in that 103 to 105 range and not kind of care that they're not able to see the whole grand scheme of the map in certain settings is because a lot of the multiplayers don't have that grand scale. It's a lot of corridors, it's a lot of lane holding, etc. So it's not as needed. My ADS field of view is affected, which is just default. My weapon field of view, I switched this to wide from default. I just personally like the look of it. As you see over here on the right-hand side, narrow makes a weapon look bigger, which you don't really want your gun taking up more of the screen space. Default looks as intended, and wide makes the weapon look smaller. Third-person field of view is defaulted at 90, and for my vehicle field of view, I got that set to wide. Now, for your camera, these are some of the most important settings in gaming to ever change. Any game that you guys ever play, especially first-person shooters, maybe not any game, maybe your immersive solo, campaign style missions like your Assassin's Creeds and your Dark Souls and all that kind of stuff. Maybe having your motion blur in different, more immersive settings is okay and cool, because that's kind of the whole point of those games. But for a shooter where you're trying to have an edge on your opponents, turning off as many of these motion blurs and weapon shakes as possible is super important, because there's no reason. You don't want your gameplay to be hindered. You don't want to get a headache or get motion sickness playing this game. Or you want to be running around the map with as stable as a camera view as possible, so your shot can be as stable as possible. For world motion blur and weapon motion blur, you're going to want to turn those off immediately. First-person camera movement and third-person camera movement, all the camera movements possible. I don't even play in third person ever, but I just make sure I always turn these as low as possible, which is 50%, because, again, you just never want to have more shaking of your camera. That does it for the display and graphics settings. Now, let's jump over to my audio settings. Now, again, this is going to be a little bit different for everybody. I use a soundboard, a mixing board, a Go XLR, so my audio is just a little bit different on my PC, or if you're on console, it's going to be even a little bit different. Depending on the screen that you're watching on or the monitor you're using, etc., it's just going to be a little bit different, and the settings that you have on your audio on your Windows. For me, I just play at 60, but my 60 value might be different than yours. So play as loud. Some people like louder sounds. Some people like the game to be a little bit quiet. But the setting that you can all do, unless you like having music in the background, I turn the music all the way off. Reason being, when you're in the game, I want to be able to hear footsteps, and I want to be able to hear my teammates making comms and doing all that kind of stuff, so I can lock in. If the music is on, obviously that's just another factor that doesn't need to be there. But again, it's up to you. If you enjoy having a little music in the background, by all means. My audio mix, I set this to headphone bass cut. I just personally like the sound of this the most. You could test all these different ones. Lots of people like just regular Treyarch mix. Headphone bass boost I've played on for a long time. I've tried Treyarch mix for a long time. Right now I'm currently just messing with the bass cut. You could try what you like. This is more so, again, a bit of a personal preference. There isn't one particular one that I would say makes, for instance, footsteps sound much louder. I would say they all just pretty much sound pretty similar, and it's more of a personal preference of what you like the audio to sound like. And then the rest of these settings here are all defaulted. Now, there's not a ton of settings here in the interface settings, but I will go over just a couple things in here that you are going to want to do. If you are playing on PC, you could switch this telemetry to Essentials, which basically is just going to, up in the top left-hand corner, if you don't mind those few pieces of data being there, it shows your FPS, your GPU temperature, and the time, and it'll also show you stuff like latency and stuff when you're playing the game, so you can see if you're lagging or not, or if your computer is dropping frames, or if your GPU is overheating. Now, that's not super necessary to have on your screen, but something that I would definitely make sure you do is go over to the gameplay HUD, scroll down to HUD bounds, and this is where you're going to want to pull these HUD bounds all the way in. Usually they're defaulted stretched all the way out like this. The reason why you want to pull these HUD bounds all the way in like so is because when you're in the game, it's going to make it easier for you to not have to look as far left at your minimap. You're going to notice when you pull these HUD bounds in, your minimap gets pulled closer to the middle of the screen. Now, it's not so obnoxiously close to the middle where it's going to just be right in front of someone you're trying to shoot at, but it's perfectly moved enough so that you don't have to move that slightly bit more to look at your radar. Again, it seems sweaty. It is, because it is sweaty, bro. It is super sweaty, bro. I got to go touch some goddamn grass. But it is going to make a difference. It will truly make a difference. Those split seconds, when it comes to the best settings that you could be running and the way to have an advantage over your enemies, it's not really just one setting here or there that's going to make the difference. It's actually a handful of different settings that kind of all come together that maybe save you a millisecond here and there, but You add all those up, and you're having a solid advantage over your opponents. The one other thing I changed in the interface gameplay HUD settings, I scroll down just a little bit to crosshair, and I switched my crosshair color, which you can do too if you didn't know this. I just switched this to green. I just prefer having it green. Again, it's not going to take you from a negative KD to a positive KD, but it's just another piece of customizable thing that you can do. Something I personally like better. I just like that I could see my crosshair a little bit clearer and a little bit better. It stands out more when I have it set to green. Now, let's get into what you most likely all came here for, the controller settings. Now, before we get into these in depth, this is the most important part of the video. Before we get into these in depth, I want to talk about the sponsor of today's video, which is a long-time sponsor. I'm not going to take much of your guys' time. Literally super fast. I just want to tell you about SCUF Gaming. To celebrate the release of Black Ops 7, SCUF just released a brand new design. And I got to say, listen, bro, I got to say, I might be a little bit biased. I absolutely love my SCUF controller design. I love the silver. It looks like a sports car. I mean, it just looks clean. But, man, but I can't lie. This might be my new favorite SCUF controller, bro. This shit looks too clean. Now, the reason why SCUF is going to take your game to the next level, folks, not just because it looks cool, but because of these bad boys right here on the back of the controller. These 4 paddles right here are able to be remapped to different buttons on the that you usually would have on the front of your controller, which is going to help you with not taking your thumbs off the thumbsticks. Every time you're playing a game, if you're doing this and you're crouching and you're jumping and you're reloading and you're changing weapons, etc., you are at a slight disadvantage. You're taking a little second, even if it's only split seconds. Those split seconds can make the difference. So you can remap those buttons to these fingers back here that are doing absolutely nothing and keep those fingers on the thumbsticks and on the triggers and on everything else. You can customize multiple other things from thumbsticks to digital triggers like a mouse click and a bunch of other extra stuff. Make sure you guys go check out SCUF's website, click the link down below, and make sure you use code Zlaner at checkout. It'd be greatly, greatly appreciated. Get yourself a nice juicy discount. And let's jump back into the settings. All right, now the most important part that you all came here for, the controller settings for my button layout. This is another one that's kind of personal preference because it's more so just muscle memory. What did you get used to? I know a lot of people growing up played on tactical. I personally stayed on default. I know some people that played bumper jumper. I personally played default. Same thing with my stick layout. I keep those default. Now for my horizontal stick sensitivity and my vertical stick sensitivity, I have these both set to 1.5, 1.5. Now, the whole last year, I was playing on 1.7, 1.6, 1.6. For the last few months, I was playing 1.7, 1.7. And now I've actually brought it back a little bit to 1.5, 1.5. And I'm actually loving this sensitivity right now. When it comes to sensitivity, you can't just take Shotzi's freaking sensitivity, plug that into your game, and start shooting like Shotzi. That's just not how it works. I'm sorry to tell you. It'd be cool. It'd be sick. I wish. But that's just not how it works. What's most important is finding a sensitivity that caters to your playstyle and feels good for you. You should not overthink it. Do not think, hey, oh, I died there because maybe my sensitivity is different than this guy's sensitivity. No, you died there because you're probably dog shit. No, I'm just kidding. You probably died there because of something else. Maybe the other person, maybe of a different factor, but it's not going to be just because all your settings are completely out of whack like your sensitivity. But with that said, there is a general rule I would tell you to stick between. I would highly advise you don't go all the way to the max sensitivity. Now, obviously, if you like playing the game like this, by all means, play how you like to play. But I would say for the most smoothing aiming and movement experience you could have in Call of Duty, and professional CDL players would attest to this. There's not a single professional CDL player, at least when they're playing in the league, maybe they fuck around when they're just, maybe quick scoping, and if that's how you play, matching your sensitivity is actually really good. But if you're just trying to play more of like a running gun with SMGs and ARs and be really good and have good accuracy and good movement, most of the professional players are going to be keeping their sensitivity between 1.3 and 1.8 and 1.8. I would not change this. I would not go any higher or any lower. I would try to get very, very used to either the lowest end, 1.3, or on the highest end, 1.8. I play, like I said, at 1.5, but again, stay in that range. It'll make you feel comfortable. You'll hit way more shots. Trust me that if you're playing on the highest sensitivity, you'll just be more consistent. It's not that you can't hit shots on the highest sensitivity. It's just you will be way more consistent and sticking within this range. These last few settings here that are all off, I just keep those. These are just default. Controller vibration. I personally turn this off. I grew up my whole life playing with this on, which is crazy. It blows my mind now because when I turn it on now, I want to freaking barf. Maybe you guys know what I'm talking about. Maybe I'm about to unlock a memory for you, a core memory for you guys right now. But I remember growing up with my Xbox. I played Xbox 360 growing up. I used to have some controllers that were not corded controllers, and they actually took the AA batteries in the back. And when the batteries were close to dying, the controller would turn off the vibration to save on battery, and that's how I knew my controller was close to being dead, and I had to charge it. And whenever it would go from having vibration turned on to off, dude, I felt crazy. I felt terrible. I felt like I couldn't hit any shots. Now, obviously, that was a massive placebo, or maybe not a placebo, but what it was it was just the muscle memory I was used to was now not on. So every time I was doing something like shooting my gun and it wasn't vibrating, it just was throwing me off. If you are somebody that has vibration turned on and you're scared of making that switch because every time you turn it off, it just feels weird to you, that is simply just the muscle memory. You have to give it a solid few sessions to get used to it. But in no time, your muscle memory will click in. You will start to get used to the fact that when you pull your trigger, you aren't going to flinch and think, oh, my hands are going to shake, and the vibration is off. Now, you could keep this on if you'd like. I would highly advise you turn it off because there's no reason for you. There's more than enough visual cues on your screen to know when you're getting shot at, audio and visual cues. There's no reason for you to need your hands to shake. It just doesn't make sense. If you're trying to have really, really pinpoint accurate aiming, having your controller shake, it's not like the controller shakes like crazy, but just any shake at all isn't really necessary. So for that reason, I keep it turned off. Now, these settings can sometimes be very dependent on the controller that you are specifically playing on. If you're playing on a fresh controller with no stick drift, you can bring these left stick minimum and right stick minimums down significantly and still not get major amounts of stick drift. Hence why I'm playing with left stick 2 and right stick 2. But if you get tons and tons of stick drift and you don't like it, what I would highly advise you do is you go into the game, you bring this value as low as you can, maybe down to 1-1. You're going to most likely have some stick drift going on. And if that's the case, crank it up to 2-2 and then check and see if you have stick drift. Then crank it up to 3-3 and 4-4 and so on and so forth. Until you don't have stick drift anymore. Now, mind you, I actually do, funny enough, have a little bit of stick drift in game at these 2-2 values, but I actually don't mind it that much. It just lets me know that my stick is always the most sensitive possible. So I am able to, as soon as I move that stick just a little bit, it's going to react. Now, for your left stick maximum, putting this at 60 is extremely good to do. The reason why is look at the graphic that you see on the right-hand side with the left stick. As I bring it closer in and closer in and closer in, that right there basically means if I was to move up on my thumbstick right here, like up, right, down, left, that it's basically how fast the stick gets to that point. And that point right there is a full tack sprint, basically. Like as soon as it reaches the red circle, you're going to be in a attack sprint. Now, sometimes you obviously want to be able to move a little bit slower or walk backwards a little bit, or when you're crouching, you don't want it to be fully just right into a full attack sprint. That's why I set this to 60, and most people set this to 60, just simply so that when you push up on your thumbstick and you go into a sprint, your character's going to be getting there a lot faster than what it's defaulted to, which is 99. That means I have to push all the way up to there, which again is not that much. All the way up is not that far. But think about it. That little bit of a difference, that little millisecond, that little thing, it could be the difference sometimes. So right stick max, just keep that default 99. You want this one to say 99 because you want way more control and over the range that you have of your stick. And you can see that right here on the right stick value. You can see the red zone. That is how far I have to push up, left, right, down on the stick for it to go to that value. And on the right stick, it's the same thing. On to the aiming settings. For advanced settings, by default, your ADS sensitivity transition timing is going to be set to gradual. I put this on instant. Basically, having it on gradual, the sensitivity multiplier is progressively applied when alternating between hipfire to fully zoomed in. Whereas when you set it to instant, the sensitivity multiplier is applied immediately when you aim down sight. So this one right here is another one of those settings it's not just going to turn you into freaking Scump or Shotzzy right when you change it. I would say you could have just as much success on gradual. This is one of those things that you could just test out for yourself and see what you prefer. I personally prefer instant. Now, this setting right here is without a doubt the one setting that actually might turn you into Shotzzy. I'm just kidding. It won't turn you into Shotzzy. Don't expect that to happen. But this is the most important setting to change. You should not play on standard. You should not play on linear. You should 100% play on dynamic. Dynamic You've probably already heard about this before, if you've even heard about people complaining about aim assist before. Dynamic aim assist used to not be a thing. I don't know which Call of Duty this was added with, probably MW 2019 or shortly before that if it wasn't MW 2019. But dynamic aim assist is the strongest form of aim assist that has ever existed in the game. When this came out, people complaining about aim assist became more rampant than ever, and it's because of how much better it is than standard and linear. I would highly recommend that you play on dynamic. It's what every pro is going to be using, and that is just because it is the standard. It is definitely the best one to be using. It feels the best. It's the stickiest. It feels very solid. It's just a good feel in the game versus playing on standard or linear. When you show more, you don't have to touch this at all. It's going to be set to that on default. In your controller aiming settings, this is also one of those personal preference thing. I know a lot of good solid players that just keep this ADS sensitivity multiplier set to the defaulted 1. I personally like to slow my ADS sensitivity in just ever so slightly down to 0.90. I just personally feel like the aim assist becomes just a little bit stickier, but obviously that does slow down your ADS sensitivity just a little bit. It's very, very, very minimal. But I do just prefer this particular change. You could keep this value at 1 if you'd like, and I would not go any lower than 0.80, or you're going to be starting to get in some very slow ranges. Now, going over to the movement tab, this is going to be something you definitely want to put on. Since you're not a CDL pro and you don't have to worry about something called a GA, like a gentleman's agreement, they have this particular setting GA'd in professional play because of how good it is. The reason why it's so good is because when you have this set to off, sprint assist, you have to press in on your sprint button, which is usually you're pressing in on the stick, to sprint, and then you have to press on it twice to go into a tactical sprint. When you have this turned on, you only have to press it once to go into a tactical sprint, but when you have tactical sprint assist turned on, as soon as you push forward on your stick, you will always be in a tactical sprint. Now, in Black Ops 7, tactical sprinting isn't even in the game unless you put a perk onto your character. So you can disregard this completely and just put it on if you don't use that perk. Now, I just put it on tactical sprint assist so that if I do use the perk, it will automatically put it in attack sprint. And then this will save your left thumb. Believe me, this will save your left thumb a lot of pain and suffering from just clicking in all the time on this to sprint. It'll make it so you automatically sprint all the time. And again, it's one of those things that if you don't use this and you turn it on, it's going to feel weird at first. You're going to maybe not like it, but give it time. There's a reason it's G8 in pro play. It's because it's insanely good. Mantle assist, I keep this off. Crouch assist off. Corner slice off. Now for corner slicing, this is again this is a personal preference one. Corner slicing is when you go up next to a wall and your character slowly does this and turns and corner slices the corner. This is 100%, even though you would think that would make like some type of disadvantage or advantage for that player, it is 100% a visual thing. This has zero effect on your actual game. So when you run up to a wall and you can test this out in yourself in a private match, you could turn this off or on and it has no effect. When you go up to a wall and you peek around the ledge, your whole body sticks out and somebody can see you. Just like if you walk up to the wall and you go over to the left and your character doesn't tilt his head, you are still peeking out the same amount if you have the setting on or off. It doesn't make a difference. It's just up to you whether you like that little lean, it's a little bit more immersive, or if you just prefer turning it off completely like OG COD, yeah, just your character doesn't do a tilt, which I personally prefer. Wall jump assist I have off, combat roll assist off, slide dive behavior. Now this is a massive one right here. This hybrid setting came out little over maybe a year ago, I want to say, a year or maybe even 2. I think this one came out with MW3, if I'm not mistaken. And back during that particular Call of Duty season for the CDL in particular, a lot of the pros just stayed with tap to slide, making it so, just like it reads, you tap your button to slide instead of holding it, which you want to set this to this setting if you want that to happen. But if you want to take it to another level, which a lot of the pros have now switched to, hybrid is what you want to be playing on. And what this basically allows you to do is it's going to be tap only to slide, but tap while holding the sprint input to dive. Basically put, when you're running forward, if you press the slide button, whatever your slide button is set to, it's going to make your character slide just like tap to slide would. But if you push in on the stick while you push the slide button, you will perform a dive. Again, like I've said many, many times in this video so far, this is going to be one of those settings that if you switch it at first, you are going to feel so awkward. You are probably going to be pushing in on your stick sometimes and do a dive accidentally instead of a slide just because the muscle memory hasn't kicked in yet. listen, I've reiterated this multiple times, and this goes for more than just one setting. But whether it's this, whether it's your sensitivity, any of that stuff, whether it's your vibration on your controller, all these settings sometimes feel weird to change at first, but once you get used to them, once the muscle memory clicks in, it no longer feels weird, and you probably will be a better player afterwards. You just have to get through that weird little week or two of playing like complete ass until you are improved. Automatic airborne mantle, I keep this off. Sprint restore on. Slide maintain sprint, you want to keep on. Parachute automatic behavior, I keep off. Now, obviously, you're not parachuting in multiplayer, but this is for Warzone when it does come out. Wingsuit activation is manual. We haven't been able to use this yet. So I just have this defaulted. Wall jump activation is press, which is default. Slide combat roll is tap to slide. Combat roll camera, all this stuff, a lot of this stuff is default. In the movement advanced settings, I have sprint/tactical sprint behavior set to toggle. Auto move forward is off. Auto door peek is off. Grounded mantle is on. Tactical sprint activation, single tap sprint. Plunging underwater is set to trigger, and sprinting door bash is on. A lot of those are defaulted. And in vehicle advanced settings, again, you're not going to be driving vehicles in Black Ops 7, but here they are just so you can see them. And in my combat settings, a lot of these are default. You can pause the video and try these for and put all these on for yourself. But if I'm not mistaken, all these are default, and I keep them defaulted. Now, in my combat advanced settings, when I play Warzone, I have this set to prioritize interact, because you want to be able to pick up items on the floor super, super fast. You want to be able to open doors and do different interactions faster than you reload. And then you just tap to reload whenever there's nothing in front of you, or you hold to reload if you're standing next to something that you can interact with. But in the multiplayer, tap to reload feels a million times better, just because there's not a lot of doors and different things you're interacting with like you are in Warzone, and vehicles and whatnot. You're just running around, and tapping to reload feels nice, and it makes it so that if you're standing on top of a weapon of an enemy you just killed, you can still tap to reload. If you have this set to prioritize interact, I had to actually switch this back to tap to reload because I'm usually used to playing Warzone instead of multiplayer. The prioritize interact was screwing me over, because when you're standing on top of enemies' guns, you're going to be picking them up over and over again, and you don't want to be doing that. So set this back to tap to reload for multiplayer. Mantle cancels reload is on. Sprint cancels reload is off. Akimbo behavior independent. All this different stuff is defaulted, folks. You can just take a little look at that and set it to that if it isn't the same for you. And that wraps up the settings video, folks. Thank you so very much for watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed. Send it to a friend. Send this to one of your boys that just sold you and your boys the win in your last search and destroy match, and he needs better settings. Send this to that guy. Folks, thank you for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.